Your initial question was an interesting way to shroud the ultimate. I think if you drill down what you were saying, may I ask the question that you were essentially dressing up?
Yes.
Okay. Bill, wasn't it you and your crappy roster the reason why Tom wanted out?
And your offer of a contract that you knew that he would rebuff in 2019 in the summer until he finally threw up his hands and said, I'm going to be out of here. Those two things together, yes. I mean, the option was he weighed his options. His options were, hey, do you want this half-eaten candy bar? I mean, this is how Bill is really framing it. You know, he looked at his options and decided to go elsewhere. Well, what was the option the Patriots were offering him? He had said, I want the full candy bar, and I want to enjoy it for a couple years. I want it to be a yummy one.
So is
here's a half-eaten candy bar you can eat for a year.
Now, I was being facetious, but the general sense of things was that there was no way to bridge the gap. Was there any way possibly to bridge the gap? Because
there was.
Okay.
In the 2019 offseason, Brady and his folks expected a 2-year, $50 million guaranteed contract identical to Drew Brees'. That's what they had discussed. That's what they expected. And then come August, when it still hadn't germinated, and they finally said, you're not going to get that. Here's a 2-year deal. Second year is not guaranteed. It's basically an $8 million bump. How do you like that? They could have still been here through 2020 if they gave him that the Brees deal. And once they didn't do that, the season played out. And when Brady sat down with Belichick prior to free agency, kind of more doing a solid for the Patriots because he said he would. And Belichick said to him, look, highest we can go on the cap for you is going to be $22.5 million this year. That's it. That's all we can do. And there was still no talk of a guaranteed second year. So, yeah, there was a gap to be bridged, and there was willingness on Brady's part all the way up until the summer of 2019 to do it. Patriots didn't want to believe that Brady could do what he's been doing. You can't blame him for that because no one's ever done it. But when the guy's sitting in front of you for 20 years and you still don't believe what you're looking at, then it's on you when he goes someplace else.
But I guess when it all comes down to it as well, I mean, if you are taking stock, would Brady have been able to spin gold out of the straw that was left around last year that we saw? I mean, obviously Cam getting COVID and not being the same guy in the first 3 weeks was a death knell in a way. But would Brady have been able to do what he's been doing for the 20 years prior with that 2020 team? Right. So
because here's the reason though. Because Bill Belichick and Nick Caserio couldn't do as good a job building the Patriots as Jason Light did in Tampa. Some of that's tied to the fact that they're drafting later than Tampa. Some of that's tied to draft picks being confiscated by the league. Some of that's tied to the Patriots going, as Belichick said, kind of all in to win Super Bowls and what they perceived were Brady's waning days. But a lot of it has to do with just bad roster management, bad selections, bad free agent picks. So, no, they wouldn't have won, but you can't say they wouldn't have won and just shrug. There's a reason their roster was bad in 2020, and it wasn't Tom Brady.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.